I don't know, but
No, you know what you need, Chantal? You need to get your butt out of the Middle East. You need to go back to Canada and you need to start living a life that isn't just a big scam. I mean, this is silly. You're going to be 40 years old. You're out here, I mean, following some 29-year-old thinking that he's going to love you and marry you and make a life with you and whatever. Girl, come on. He laughs at you. He makes fun of you. I mean, why do you think you're over there with him? Because you guys are living it up? I mean, yeah, you really look like you're living it up. You really look like you're happy. What you need to do is you need to go back to Canada. You need to start putting in hard work. And you need to, if a relationship is really what you want, if that's your end game in life, I know it is for some people. If that's really what you want, someone to love you, someone to call you baby, someone to give you affirmations, whatever. I mean, slow steps. I mean, whatever. Get on the dating apps, work on yourself, get back to a point where you can walk for more than a minute without getting dizzy. I mean, that would, if I were that in that place, that would be my number one priority. Not who's going to call me baby when I put my head down at night. I mean, girl, come on. I mean, you're not going to be able to heal in this environment, let alone thrive. You're talking about energy. You're sitting here telling us how you're about to fall asleep.
So you're getting help and you want to dunk on Chantel? And that's why I think Shannon and FFG's chemistry is so beautiful, because they're so similar. FFG has to be the hero. That's why she has to always dunk on Chantel with something. Like when she did the thing with BBJ, I stand on this. She did her big one. She did her big one with that one, especially with the way Chantel was running her mouth, talking about FFG's dogs. And all. When I saw her pull that off, I said, leave it to Chantel to have me applaud FFG. I was pissed. I was like, oh, this was so good. She trolled the fuck out of you. Oh my God. So, just so we're clear, and you heard it here first. What happened with BBJ, rescuing BBJ? The BBJ rescue to FFG will be with the 89 LBs are to Amber. You will always hear about it for years to come. Always. That's never going to die. She did her big one. She had to make it public. And for those saying, oh, it's for the money, I think you guys forget, I've said this before, multiple things can be right at once. She did her big one and definitely helped BBJ, because at this point, I think almost anybody's better than Chantel. But yes, of course it was for the money. If it wasn't for the money, she wouldn't have made it public. Of course it was for the money. Are you kidding? The bitch held she shopped for BBJ's collar on stream. She shopped for a cat to get a Gucci collar for a cat. Of course it was for money. But I'm not going to take away the fact that, like, at least she got BBJ. But yes, it was for money. Yes, it was for content. Are you crazy? That is her 89 LBs, bitch. She is never letting that go. That will always be content in some way.
Isms. So, French fried girls should be worried because Chantal was threatening to sue again. Shadowed that she might have returned to Canada to handle some other business, and she would handle that while she was there. I would be terrified if I was French fried girl. So terrified. This is the woman who couldn't even make a vet appointment, and she's going to coordinate a multi-person lawsuit because she felt duped about her cat being given to somebody else. By her to somebody else. But she couldn't tell you who because the selfish bitch wouldn't even walk down the stairs to go say bye. She handed it to Pete's. Again, many reasons we can't follow through with our commitments. So, and Chantal doesn't have much tolerance for distress or discomfort. If something isn't exactly the way she wants to eat it, she's not going to eat it. If it's not the right temperature, she's not going to eat it. So you would think someone as large as her would be much more picky. But, or would be much less picky. But actually, some of the more morbidly obese people I know are rather picky about their food. And, like other folks who deal with addiction, can get pretty nasty if they don't get what they want. How many people think that they've probably fought about food a couple times already? I'm sure he was fine with her coming over, but she farted out a bunch of promises initially that she was gonna, I'm gonna go to the gym and lose weight, and it'll be great, and I'll be going to the beach, and we'll be travel beezing. If you're too fat for a plane, you gotta do something. because now you can't even get out of there in a hurry if you need to. There's no shame in buying 2 plain seats if you need them, but if you don't like that you need them, or that you're cutting it close to needing them, whose job is it to change the shape of Chantal's body? Yours? Mine? A pill? Some Ozempic? No, it comes down to Chantal and what she chooses to do. At this point, she's had more resources and opportunities and access to treatment over the years that most people don't give a shit how she feels, or that she probably can't handle all of her ADLs maybe on her own, because she was always such a nasty, self-centered person that her discomfort brings people pleasure. We've heard of Schadenfreude. You know, it's the same sort of thing. I don't
So we saw some boats pass by while we were hanging out by the riverside and decided after we were done hanging out by the river to see if we could find a dock and take a boat ride ourselves. On our way,
it was his hard-earned money to try to buy her food that would support her health. And then either she ordered it without him, or he came to reason of, look, I don't love you so much that $250 isn't worth risking your health to me. So if you really love me, Chantal, really, really love me, you'll go on there, eat yourself half to death, and give me the cash. So, I don't know. And she wants privacy. Okay. And where's your husband? Where's your husband? Where's your husband? Where's your husband? He's out with the boys. Thailand, from what I understand, has a very, very active sex scene. So, I'm sure he'll text you. But at any rate, this week we're going to... But she's sitting there, not a lot of people around, but it was the old eyes darting. Remember the outhouse? Or going for Burger King and then sitting in the parking lot, full face of makeup, looking all over the place to see who's looking and who's watching. She's out proud and doesn't care, but hawks like she's ashamed of what she's engaging in. So when she's sitting there with Sala eating, and there's people, you know, not a lot of people, because they go everywhere when it's closed. She's afraid of people, and they want to be able to film, and they're weird. They're weird. She likes getting attention, but standing out doesn't really... Like, I think she probably feels like people are staring, because they are staring. It's a spectacle. She's 4 times the size of a normal woman. So I think people are going to stare. That shouldn't be unexpected. Is it rude? Is it cruel? I don't know. Bottom line, it shouldn't be unexpected. And to act shocked would be kind of stupid as well.
One, I'm pretty, okay? That has a lot, and I don't mean that to be conceited. I'm being very matter of fact. Being pretty gets you a lot of privilege. I'm just saying, you can get away with a lot if you're pretty. Number one, I'm pretty.
Greeting guys, and welcome to Tailored Talk. So, next videos are going to be Amber Lynn, because her episode 6 has started. She's apparently moved to Oklahoma and is allegedly living alone. And I haven't done one video on Amber's new story arc. So I'm going to be covering Amber Lynn, and I'm also going to be covering Bly Manor. I'm going to be covering Bly Manor as well. I'm going to be covering all 8 episodes, so keep an eye out for that. So guys, back to the point of this video, aka why you guys clicked. So guys, do you remember when Foodie Beauty was doing reactions to FFG in Kuwait? And she called FFG Jeffrey Dahmer and implied that she'd brought an underage girl to her fashion show. And that wasn't true. FFG confirmed that the friend that she brought with her was in her late 20s. To be honest, I'm surprised that FFG let that go so easily, because Foodie really sat on her platform and openly said that FFG was a groomer. Chantal, you're lucky that you didn't get sued for that. FFG had every right to use that house money for a lawsuit, because what you said was completely out of line and it was completely false. But guys, I think that Foodie Beauty, it's the other way round. But guys, I think that it's the other way round. I think that Foodie Beauty and Jeffrey Dahmer are two weird peas in a pod, and I will tell you why. Now guys, I know what you're all thinking. Tailored Talk, you're sick. How can you compare the hottest girl on YouTube? How can you compare the Kim Kardashian of Girl World? How can you compare our Foodie Cutie to Dahmer, who is a serial predator and killer? But guys, looking into it, Dahmer and Foodie have more than a few things in common. Today, I'm going to go over 5 reasons why Foodie Beauty and Dahmer are more similar than you would think. Trigger warning: true crime, murder, abduction, offensive language, racist language from Foodie, of course, and true crime and mention of Dahmer's crimes in general. So here are the 5 reasons. Number 5. Both of them are older siblings. Dahmer had a younger brother called David, who's still alive today. Foodie has a younger sister. It's interesting that Foodie and Dahmer were born when their parents had more chaos, hardship, and difficulty in their lives. Foodie, as everybody knows, Foodie was born to a teenage mother called Kim, who Foodie said, had her when she was a teenager and was working 2 jobs to keep their heads above water. She was mainly raised by her grandmother, who she was extremely close with. Meanwhile, Dahmer grew up having to listen to his parents fight. Dahmer's parents, Lionel and Joyce, their relationship was toxic. Joyce was suffering from postnatal depression. Lionel was clueless and overwhelmed. When Joyce was put on medication, their relationship got better and they decided to try for another child. Dahmer's brother David came along years later. Concerning Foodie, Foodie's mother Kim, years later, met Foodie's stepdad and fell in love. They had Chantal's younger sister. Kim has been married to Chantal's stepdad ever since, and they're happy and in love to this day. Their younger siblings were almost seen as the do-over babies. They were the clean slate babies, the positive glue that kept their families together. And I think that Chantal and Dahmer both resent their siblings for that, and the perceived better treatment that their younger siblings have gotten. Can I just add that I think that Foodie and Dahmer also resented their parents as well. I think they looked at their parents with their younger siblings, and Dahmer thought, why couldn't you guys have been like this when you were raising me? I think Foodie has looked at Kim and looked at her stepdad and looked at this picture perfect family and thought, why isn't my dad in my life? And why couldn't, Kim be a nuclear family with my dad? Why couldn't I have the 2 parents to look after me and give me everything? And I think that Foodie does resent her mother for that, which is another reason why Foodie is so misogynistic towards other women, because she can't vent her feelings towards her mother, so she just pours all her anger, her acid, and all her hatred onto other women, including FFG. Guys, I read this post on the farms, and I really think this explains perfectly Foodie's mother issues and the reason why she's so horrible and why she's so callous about FFG's mother and FFG's situation. So this is by 18750, and they're replying to somebody. Somebody says, Chantal says FFG's mother's recent death was FFG's karma. And 18750 responds and says, Chantal can say cool shit like that because she doesn't give an F about her own mother. Losing a parent isn't karma. It's an inevitability the vast majority of adult children dread. We're supposed to outlive them. But that doesn't make losing a parent, or even the idea of losing them, any less painful. If Shmi dropped dead tomorrow, Chantal would use it as an opportunity to milk her dwindling viewers for sympathy and super chats. If she loved her mum, even a little, she would understand that taking shots at FFG's mother is a low blow. So low, it's not even worth taking. If she believed in karma and cared about Shmi, Foodie wouldn't bring up someone else's dead mother for fear of that shit coming back around. Chins is hitting FFG below the belt because her parents love her, because FFG's parents love her, and she loves them, which is something that Chantal can't say about herself or either of her parents. And I put this in here because I think it's kind of relevant in the stuff that I'm talking about right now. What a really fantastic, poignant post. Even though sometimes the farms is trash, sometimes they do make amazing points. I can't deny that. Number 4. The lie of turning to religion. To land a man, Foodie fakes being a Muslim to appeal to Salah. Even though she does drugs, curses at people regularly, doxes people, harasses people over their mother's deaths, eats like crazy, eats non-halal food, including live shrimp. And I just want to crap on that again and call her out on that again, because how can Foodie Beauty call herself a Muslim and eat live shrimp? Like, who does that? After Dahmer got caught, he showed no interest in religion before on the outside world, but in prison he became a Christian. He got baptized, and I don't think he ever had a genuine interest in religion. It was just to appeal to his parents and the public, to make everyone believe that he was sorry for his crimes. They both use religion as a fake shield to defend themselves from any criticism. Number 3. Foodie and Dahmer have both had substance abuse issues. Since she was a teen, Foodie Beauty has always been on something. Weed as a teen, and as an adult, the drug of food her entire life, and later on, harder drugs. Now, I would say male attention, but that's never been an available drug to her, all or most of the time. Foodie can't function without food binges or some kind of drug to get her through the day. Foodie Beauty is always on some type of drug. She's a low-functioning drug and food addict. Concerning Dahmer, Dahmer started drinking on and off at the age of 13. His school knew, his mother knew, and didn't do anything. By the time he was 18, he was a fully fledged alcoholic. by the time he was 18, he was an alcoholic. The only reason he was forced to quit his addiction is when he finally got arrested in the early 90s. Number 2. Being racist while fetishizing men of colour at the same time. Now, this is a complicated one. Foodie has a long history of being racist towards creators like Monty and Charlie Gold, but she's dated and freeloaded from BB for years. She sat at home and did mukbangs while he worked like 12, 13-hour shifts to pay the bills. She was also constantly calling Nader a camel. She also uses anti-Semitism now as a go-to. And she was anti-Semitic before Salah. But that doesn't stop her from chasing after the same men that she despises and loves to demean. The only reason that Foodie goes after men of colour is because the white men that she idolises, the white men that she's really attracted to, do not want her, with a bold exclamation point. Dahmer was also a well-known racist, using the N-word when it suited, but that also didn't stop him from targeting men of colour. In my opinion, with Dahmer's attacks, he never targeted black and brown men and boys out of attraction. In my opinion, I believe for Dahmer it was about racism. It was about gaining quick access to young bodies so that he could use them for pleasure, pick and choose the body parts that he wanted before throwing them away like garbage. To do that, Dahmer needed victims that were poor and wouldn't attract attention from media or from law and order agency attention. Boys and men of colour were perfect victims because they were less likely to go to the police, less likely to report abuse, and most of all, less likely to be believed by any police. Check out the Ron Flowers case, in which one of Dahmer's victims, Ron Flowers, actually went to the police. And look at what happened there. You'll actually get angry just reading about it. Dahmer could still hate these men and still sleep with them, the same way that Foodie could still hate Nader and sleep with him, because Nader has been the only guy that has touched her in years, and that's the real reason why she wants him back. Now, let's go on a tangent here. Foodie wants Nader back and she always will, but it's not because of Nader's amazing personality. It's not his dashing good looks. It's not his Paul Hollywood cooking. It's not his Alexander Skarsgård Tarzan body. It's none of those things. It's the fact that Nader is the only guy that will prostitute himself out for money and household goods. Nader will pimp himself out for a bottle of bleach, sweet potato, broccoli, and raw chicken. Like, he will prostitute himself out to anybody for anything. Now, because Foodie is extremely racist and xenophobic, on occasion she has called Nader a camel and ranted about him. Now, because she's racist and xenophobic, Foodie Beauty has called Nader a camel, ranted about him being a refugee and how he shouldn't be in Canada. I mean, most of Cuba Rage was her venting and being extremely xenophobic towards Nader. But she would take Nader back in a second, because he's the only man in Canada, besides Pete, that will touch her, and she can buy his company. Foodie Beauty, as much as her brain is clogged up with fat, kebab, rice and paneer, Foodie Beauty knows deep down that she's not an easy person to live with. That's why she has to buy people's attention, their loyalty and affection. BB. With BB, she moved in with him and used him for money. Pete's, broke or not, will always be at her beck and call because he's in love with her. But a young man like Salah, that looks like he does, she has to pay for him. She has no other option. Now, in terms of Dahmer was a little different. Dahmer was gay. He identified as gay. Now, Dahmer was seen as conventionally attractive. He identified as gay. And he would go to the clubs and he was extremely popular in the gay bars. He had a reported harem of guys at the bars that would follow him around and buy him drinks. But to entice men to his apartment, it was easier to throw money at them or promise them money. And mainly his ideal number was $50. Both Chantal and Dahmer have a routine habit of paying men for attention, sex, and companionship. Okay, guys, we're on to number one. So the number one reason why I think Dahmer and Foodie Beauty, aka Chantal, aka Big Beautiful Me, aka the Kim Kardashian of YouTube, the number one reason why I think they are very, very alike is the inability to mentally handle being lonely or being alone. Now, Foodie has never been alone. Growing up, she lived with her parents, then she met Pete in high school. When they began dating, they lived together. Foodie then cheated on Pete with BB. She moved in with BB. She cheated on BB. He never found out, but due to her lack of work, her laziness, her refusal to clean the house, her refusal to do anything except sit down and eat on YouTube, he got tired of her and dumped her. After that, she went crawling back to Pete's and openly said that she went back to her ex as a friend because she didn't want to live alone. Now Chantal is with Salah in a foreign country and depends on him for everything. And her physical independence is currently being threatened by her food addiction. When Salah dumps her, she'll probably go back to her parents because she doesn't have the money to look after Pete's anymore. When Dahmer's parents got divorced, Lionel moved out because of a court order, and his mother Joyce took David, his little brother, away to live with families. At 18, Dahmer was still in high school, but he was also considered an adult, so Joyce had no problem leaving him alone. In my opinion, I think this was a turning point for Dahmer. He admitted back then that without family there, without parents there, he was drinking daily. No one at school had known that his parents had left him. And he said later on that in those months that he was desperately lonely and didn't want to ever feel that type of piercing loneliness ever again. It was at this time that he killed his first victim at 18 in that house, just before his father got back. He killed a fellow 18-year-old called Stephen Hicks, who was a hitchhiker. Stephen wanted to go to a concert. Jeff lied and said that he'd take Stephen there, but he actually drove Stephen to his house. They drank, they smoked a little weed, but when Stephen wanted to leave, that's when Dahmer killed him, because he didn't want to be alone again. Both Foodie and Dahmer have serious issues with being alone. For example, in Thailand, when Salah and Foodie argued, and Foodie went to the Thai markets alone to eat, and you know that one where that woman took pictures of her? She went to the markets alone to eat. She ordered, she turned on the chat, and then said to her beezers, You know, I've got you guys, so it doesn't look weird. I'm not alone. And I'll never forget that because she said to a bunch of strangers online on her phone that I'm not alone. And then she said, I've got you guys, so I'm not alone. Whereas all the locals saw was a huge woman wrapped in fabric, squeezing herself into a hijab, squeezing herself onto one stool. Like, if anybody had tried to steal her purse or anything, she wouldn't have been able to run after them. And no friends and her husband are not there. So she was alone. But she didn't see it that way because she was online with her beezers. That quote from Foodie about not being alone because she had her beezers, it reminded me of Dahmer telling his lawyers that he would shower in the bathtub with dead bodies because he didn't want to be alone and he couldn't bring himself to get rid of the bodies. Both Chantal and Dahmer are unable to comprehend or mentally cope with being alone. They cannot mentally deal with themselves or psychologically deal with the horror of how bad their lives are alone. Foodie has always lived with family or a man. When her and Salah are apart or alone for any reason, she turns on her chat, her so-called friends, who are actually just trolls that that throw her a bit of money every now and again. But she turns on her chat because she can't be alone by herself. Dahmer spent months alone. At 18, decided that he would never do it again because he was so haunted by it and didn't want to be alone, and instantly started killing when he got his first apartment. He got his first apartment, and within a week, he had killed his first victim, which was a prostitute called Ricky Beeks. Later on, Dahmer's dead bodies became his roommates because he couldn't handle the abandonment that he'd gone through at 18 with his parents. Much like Foodie can't get over her biological father's abandonment. Now, I will say, Chantal, aka Foodie Beauty, aka My Big Beautiful Me, aka the Kim Kardashian of YouTube, she hasn't crossed as many lines as Dahmer did. Obviously, she's not a serial killing pedo. Yes, I know. But Chantal and Dahmer are very much kindred spirits with a matching attitude as to how they manipulate and groom men. They also have this reluctant to be an adult and deal with everyday life, everyday struggles, everyday adulting alone. Also, Dahmer, when he was alive, and Foodie both adamantly refuse to go to or experience any type of therapy which would do them both the world of good. In relationships, everything has to be on their terms, and God help anyone that stands up to them or anybody that refuses to be bought or controlled. When Salah finally breaks up with Chantal, and it will happen because she doesn't have enough money to sustain the both of them, when he finally kicks her to the curb and gets a slimmer woman that actually is good looking, she will go nuclear, and Salah will regret the day that he decided to swipe right. Okay guys, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, if I made any sense, if there's any truth to it. Is Foodie really the Kim Kardashian of Girl World? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening.